Hi, and welcome to lesson number 5 of the Fundamentals of Slovenian Grammar course. So, before we do anything new today, like we usually do, let's review everything we've done so far, very briefly. So we have our two worlds. We have the world of nouns and the world of verbs, and then we have all of the grammatical properties that they are made up of. And then we can think of all of the words on screen in terms of two categories. One is word types and the other is properties. And then we also said that gender and number and case together, when they have to do with the world of nouns, we would refer to them as the big three, and that they are the three important grammatical characteristics shared by all nouns and adjectives and pronouns. And so today we are. Then we also compared the two languages, and we said that as opposed to Slovenian, English does not have gender, it does not have case, or for all practical purposes, it does not have case, and it does not have the dual number. So if we had to describe all of the words in English in terms of the Slovenian case system, or if we had to view English through the lens of the Slovenian case system, then all of the words would be in the nominative, except for a very select few, such as him and her and us. Those would be in the accusative. So we can see that the two languages are very different. Now today we're starting a new topic, and a very important one, and that is the so-called base form. This is actually just a word or a phrase that I use. I don't think you'll find this phrase in any grammars. I think the term is lemma, L-E-M-M-A, lemma. But the base form is a very useful concept that will come in very handy. So what on earth do we mean by the base form? Well, it's the simplest form, or the simplest version of a word, if you will. It is the least complex or the least differentiated form. And if we use a tree analogy, it is the trunk of the tree rather than the branches or the twigs. Now, the base form, when it comes to the base form in English, we can consider the following: mouse over mice, and he over him, and to go, kind of to go before we learn goes and went and gone. So basically we kind of view mouse and he and to go as primary, and mice and him and goes, went, gone as secondary. Or we can think of he as the original and him as a different version of he. Now, in practice, we can, of course, learn the word mice before we do mouse, if we just come across it in a book or a text and learn the plural first. But we would then kind of remember mouse as the primary one, as our starting point. That's what we would really remember. And similarly, we might not learn to go before we learn like went or gone. It might be the other way around, but we would kind of remember to go as our starting point, as the sort of original, so to speak, and then we have different versions of that word. So that's kind of what the base form is in English. But the thing is that the base form is not really a thing in English, and that's just because words in English simply don't change much, and if anything, that's an understatement. Don't change much. Words in English hardly change at all. And so if we just consider the verb to go, it's I go, you go, and then he, she goes is different, but then we're right back to we go, you go, they go. So it's I go, you go, we go, you go, they go. It's all just go. So English doesn't really come, the words in English don't really change much. Now, as opposed to English, the base form in Slovenian is very much a thing, and a very important thing. So words in Slovenian change a lot, and this is also kind of an understatement. Words in Slovenian change all the time, and so it's so important to always ask ourselves what the original is, what it is we're actually dealing with when we come across a certain word in a Slovenian text, for example. And so both of our two worlds have a base form. Both the world of nouns, or noun-like words, and the world of verbs have a base form. And in fact, all words that change have a base form, and those are the words that change. So we have 4 word types that we've learned so far: nouns, adjectives, pronouns, and verbs. All of them come in many different shapes and sizes, and so all of them have a starting point, have a base form. The reason we wrote some don't is because some words just do not change, like prepositions. If I say on or in or without or with, those words never change. And there are a few more words like that in Slovenian, a few more word types that do not change, but the main ones that do are nouns, adjectives, pronouns, and verbs. And the base form is very important when it comes to all 4 of those. Now, the base form is also the form that we expect to find in a dictionary. So if we look up a word in a dictionary, the dictionary entry will be in this least complex version of the word, in this simplest form of the word. Also, if we come across word lists, so for example, if we have a vocabulary list in a Slovenian textbook, chances are all of those words will be in the base form. So if there is no context surrounding a word, if it's not used within the context of a sentence, if it's just by itself, chances are it is also in the base form. Also, if we ask a Slovenian person, hey, how do you say, and then any noun or adjective or pronoun or verb, like, hey, how do you say polite in Slovenian? There are many different versions of the word polite, and the one we would get as a reply would be in the base form, would be the simplest one. So any kind of question like that we would ask a Slovenian person, the answer by default, without them even giving it a thought, would be in the base form. Now, if we use a tree analogy again, this time to compare both languages, both language systems, then Slovenian has many more branches and twigs than English does. It's simply way more complex in this regard. It's just much more complex. Words come in many different shapes and sizes for a variety of different reasons that we will learn in future lessons. And so purely by contrast, the base form stands out more, because if we have many different versions of a word, then the original is that much more important. It just stands out that much more. So that's why the base form is so important in Slovenian when compared to English. So if we just consider nouns in English, I mean, nouns in English lead fairly boring lives. I mean, not much can happen to a noun in English. Yes, we can change the word dog to dogs. We can add an S and make many dogs out of one dog, but that's about as much as we can do with the word dog in English. Now, let's have a look at the same thing in Slovenian. Oh, so first we have dog in English, yeah. So dog in English, English does not have gender, it does not have case, it does not have the dual number, so we really just have 2 dogs in English, and they are dog in the singular and dogs is the plural. And that's it when it comes to dog in English. Now, if we compare Slovenian, if we compare that to Slovenian, then dog is masculine. We'll talk much more about gender in future lessons, but nouns are inherently and by default either masculine or feminine or neuter, and there's nothing we can do about it. And the word dog is masculine because it ends in a consonant. The word is pus, P-E-S. S is a consonant, which makes dog masculine. Anyway, there's nothing we can do with gender really, because it's just predetermined. It's masculine. However, then we have the entire interplay of number and case. So we can have one dog, and that one dog can come in 6 different versions that we call cases. It could be the singular nominative or genitive or dative or accusative or locative or instrumental. And then we repeat the same thing, of course, for the dual and the plural. We have no less than 6 versions of dog of exactly 2 dogs, and we have no less than 6 versions of many dogs. And that is the interplay of number and case. And so if we just use dog, then there are 2 forms of dog in English and no less than 18 different forms of dog in Slovenian. So how do we get that? We just multiply the grammatical category of number with case. So 3 times 6 is 18. Actually, in practice, there are less than 18 because many of them are identical in appearance. Some of them repeat themselves, but like for all practical purposes, now that we're just thinking about the language and making an overview of the language, it's kind of like 3 times 6. So the importance of the base form is important because words in the wild will not be in the base form. So there are 18 different forms of dog. So that means there's a 1 in 18 chance, if we come across the word dog in a Slovenian text, that it is in the base form, which is about 5%, which is not very high. So let's say you read a Slovenian text and you come across a word and you kind of know that that word means dog, but you're not really sure if it's one dog or many dogs or like what case it's in or what's going on with it. You cannot be confident that that is the dog that you should remember, that is the first dog that you learn in Slovenian, and that's kind of the problem. Now these 5%, I mean, in practice this has to be higher because not all of those 18 appear equally as often. So I'm guessing the singular is much more common than the dual, and so on and so forth. But even if that's like a solid 20%, you still cannot be confident that that a random dog that you come across in a Slovenian text is the one that you can actually remember. And so this is why the base form is just so much more important in Slovenian. And that is simply because Slovenian is chaotic. If you're coming from English, then Slovenian as a language is pretty chaotic. Words come in many different forms, shapes and sizes for a variety of different reasons, and you never quite know what's going on. And so we cannot just commit random words to memory. I mean, sometimes that'll happen on its own, of course, if you're just exposed to the same context, to the same phrase over and over again, and that's perfectly fine. But generally speaking, we should develop a habit of always asking ourselves, what am I actually looking at? What is this word actually? So I'm probably looking at a particular version of this word, but what is the base form of this word? And that's a very important habit. I can't stress too much how important that is, especially for a beginner. And so that's why we'll continue these next few lessons on this same topic of the base form, exploring it in much more detail. I hope this was not too grammar heavy. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next lesson, and I wish you all the best on your Slovenian journey. Take care.